Okay, we're doing something a little different right now because we have a whole lot of show coming up about other stuff, but I am here to talk about some LeBron. And I am somebody who really does try to chronicle and contextualize the degrees of LeBron that we witness. That's me just being incepted by his branding, by the way, in a real authentic way. But I think him breaking the scoring record in LA, like we just saw last night, was the most LeBron thing I have ever seen. And I say that because it was this perfect microcosm of his essence. And I say that because it was something that he dictated, that he scheduled, that he almost titrated scientifically himself down to how and when he wanted to do it. A little bummed we didn't get a skyhook that had been rumored, but also it was full of just over the top celebrity cameos. It was deeply theatrical. That is undeniable. It was absurdly distracting from the actual game. By the way, the Lakers lost to the Thunder by 3. It shattered the premise of a conventional television basketball experience. And there's nothing else like it that I can think of. And even with Kobe, right, that was the main analog here. With Kobe and his last game where he dropped a zillion points, he had to wait till the end of the game there. This was something that broke open what we think of basketball as a television product. And that's perfect, right? Because despite all of that, and I just do a lot of cynicism, I think, at you, it was, to be clear, objectively justified. You could argue that it was understated, given that this is actually the guy whose name is now atop a list, all-time scoring leaders, that just reflects what he has always been, really for the last decade or so at least. But this is what he was prophesized to be, which is the center of our universe. And look, LeBron's legacy is many things, and we'll talk about that. They had many mini montages, a bad Drake attempt to joke about the gravity of all of this. But this is just a reminder that more than anything, LeBron's legacy is how he reshaped sports as television, as a theatrical experience. It started with ESPN2 in high school when he got the big boys, the big guns to come down and call his game when he was a teenager. It continued, obviously, infamously, through The Decision, a thing that Maverick Carter, his business manager, his right-hand man, his partner, really, not just manager at this point, told me that they regretted as a television experience because they didn't really know what they were doing. And even like the Rotten Tomatoes aspect of this show aside, let's just be clear that he is the show. Adam Silver giving this speech mid-game in a way that had everybody taping this on their phones, in a way that, you know, had people, I think, already, I could hear them from afar, offering takes and backlash. This is the LeBron James experience too, to a perfect degree. It was less like a basketball game, honestly, than any actual like regular season basketball game I can imagine. And it was also at the same time entirely about basketball. It was driven by his basketball accomplishments. And in fact, the only thing that anybody wanted him to do was break this record. That's why it was so funny to me. You had the scoreboard in the top right corner. You had everybody booing, essentially, not just when Russell Westbrook turned the ball over 6 times, but when people shot that were not LeBron James. It's sort of the nerd vision of like a target score. I love a game, it turns out, with a special inset scoreboard. I didn't realize that till I watched this. And his gift also, LeBron's, is that he is just so good that he challenges history. He dares it to criticize him. This is the backstory of his Cold War with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And ultimately, Kareem knelt figuratively before him. Kareem played the role of the guy passing the torch and being gracious despite offering so many like real criticisms, not just about like LeBron's approach to the vaccine, but also to social justice, to what are you doing with your platform really? That is the guy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, whose name adorns the Social Justice Champion Award that the NBA now hands out. And so the NBA got something that it always wanted. It got history smiling alongside the present and the future, and soon in LeBron's case, for the rest of us, the past. And this was always going to be a little awkward. You know, LeBron as this Laker, I think there was a good performance of LeBron's Laker valor, but the backdrop here. On other days, maybe no longer, but I guess it still lingers, is that this valor is also stolen. Brian Windhorst told me a great story about how at that top 75 NBA function, where all of the greats sort of showed up and they got to gather by team and take photos, that in the photo, James Worthy, Magic Johnson, Kareem, Jerry West, and LeBron, there was awkwardness, real discomfort, questions about like, are we sure this guy should be here? And I think this night proved that he should. He is as Laker as anybody else. Every quality I just described to you at the top of this is a Laker quality. And maybe the greatest quality LeBron has, to be clear, is that he is a guy who becomes stronger through hype. You know, like hype is the thing that melts people. It's the spotlight that destroys people. And I once asked LeBron, I was reporting this long feature about Spring Hill and his business interests in LA before he officially went to LA. And I asked him about like what he wants to do in Hollywood. And he told me that the number one thing, well, first off, he threw a ball off of a wall at the practice facility in Cleveland, tomahawk dunked it, walked over to me, and then answered questions like in a movie. And I asked him, well, what do you want to do in Hollywood? Anything that you have in mind? And he said, the one thing I've always wanted to be is a superhero. And this is his superpower. The spotlight makes him stronger in the way that our Earth's sun made Clark Kent into Superman. He thrives on it, even as we call him a choker and levy all of these takes about how this is overproduced and just sort of too much, that he's bigger than the game. And look, I think there is a poetic justice insofar as this game resumed with 10.9 seconds left in the third quarter. That he had 38, they lost to a sub 500 team by 3. But the problem with any criticism of LeBron is that you still have to recognize that he's essentially irreplaceable. I just can't think of anybody else who can do all of these things quite like he has done and will continue to do. So anyway, we have more show. Cam Thomas, by the way, is going to try to, spoiler alert, drop 40 for a third game in a row. And there are LeBron parallels there too. So we'll update that. But yeah, we'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Hello.
I didn't even think about that. Hello. You can just close your eyes, guys. But anyway,
we'll
get to that. We'll get to that.
That's a very good point about this whole what you need to pay for to find enlightenment thing. But I guess we're trying to talk about, wow, Alabaster, we're doing this, huh? We're starting with the Lakers today.
Oh, yeah. This is interesting because I was listening to Zach Lowe talking about their failed pursuit of Kyrie Irving, and he, our patron saint of NBA nerddom, said that if they'd gotten Kyrie, they would have been real title contenders, which got me thinking. With Kyrie off the board, do you think the Lakers should still trade their future picks and go all in this season?
So I want to frame this discussion around a basic fact that occurred to me and was clarified by the fact that the trade deadline is this week, and LeBron James agreed to his extension, Domonique, his 2-year extension, in August of 2022, which has by rule a 6-month moratorium where the guy who signed it cannot be traded, which means that LeBron James, by single-digit days, is missing the ability to actually use the leverage that comes with being LeBron James. And so he is trapped. The one thing he had never done before in his life, he is now actually boxed into, which means that we're going to have a conversation that is just endlessly frustrating for LeBron James to hear in any form, because he could actually solve it if only he didn't give away the one thing he never gives away.
Yeah, I mean, solve it. Like, that's the thing. I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's a solution or a realistic one. The best solution they have is one thing that trades can't address. It's Anthony Davis healthy and balling for an extended period of time. So yes, even if he is doing that, you're going to need another piece. But if he's not doing that, there's not enough pieces out there. LeBron will be there again next year, assuming he'll still be as impactful as he is now. So moving all these picks as if this is their last chance, like, it's always, to me, in this case, there is a situation where I'm like, yeah, F it, go all in. But there are also situations where it's like, it depends on what the deal is. And I'm not hearing the deal now that Kyrie has moved. I'm not hearing the deal that is going to make them legitimate contenders immediately. I guess they could go try to raid the the Raptors would be the only realistic.
Everybody wants to raid the Raptors right
I mean,
now.
that's
And I think that
it's
says a
OG.
it says a lot.
Yeah.
It says a lot. OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, both really good players, young players who are absolutely contributors, like all-star level players,
And
arguably. But the fact is, that's about it. In terms of like what else is available. I mean, look, okay, Alabaster has run through the trade machine, and you have other
she's gonna
names
give
that
us
you
some
think
foolishness
are
that's
on
not
par.
realistic.
Well, I actually think even OG Anunoby for the Lakers might not be realistic.
Yeah.
I think that the things that they're looking at to move the needle. And by the way, they started 2-10. They have been pretty good since. LeBron is playing at an all-world level. Davis looks great again. I don't know. I almost made him Dayball. But Davis looks great again. But I think it's if they want to go to the Raptors, it's looking at can you move the needle with Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet.
Nope. I knew you were
Can
going
you
to say
go
Fred
to the
VanVleet.
Bulls? Can you go to the Bulls? Can you pull Zach LaVine, who has had another knee surgery, who's not the same athlete he was before? Can you go to the Wizards and say, do you really want to pay Bradley Beal $250 million over the next 5 years? How about this expiring? Things like that. And the question then is, if you're getting someone who might be easier to deal with than Kyrie, can they move the needle like Kyrie could for this Lakers team?
Yeah, I mean, look, the whole thing about Kyrie with LeBron is that LeBron has a relationship that we have presumed by force of LeBron thirsting so hard to be able to solve any of the issues about reliability, which to me was always a fool's errand, honestly. But then when you see how wide open the Western Conference is, this is where I think temptation sets in a real way. And the Lakers, for the record, yes, are third worst in the West. They're ahead of the Spurs and the Rockets. But by the same token, I'm looking this up, they're 12 games back from the 1 seed. And so it's all still plausible. It's just that for me, Domonique, like, man, I think there is not just a realism that LeBron needs to sort of internalize around, like, are we going to win or not? It's also just knowing, that this isn't going to be good for the team. Like, and can you really expect it? It's a question of leverage. Like, he knows why they're not doing it. The story is the same. The story's been the same for a year. It's when you say the names Anthony Davis and LeBron James, can you create an argument in your head as to why they could win a title? Absolutely.
They did.
And yet, yeah, and they did. And they did. And yet, I don't think Lakers management here is acting out of a particular agenda that's subtle. It's not confusing. I totally get it. And I just don't think LeBron has the juice to make his present more valuable than their future.
Yeah. I don't know how valuable their future is, but we talk about the West and just the NBA in general, and we say it's wide open, and there are different types of wide open. This is not a wide open, everybody sucks situation. It's a wide open, everybody sucks situation. Then all right, by all means. It's a wide open, any of these really good teams could win the championship. That's a different situation when you're going all in. And so the Lakers historically have never like really valued draft picks or used draft picks, in part because it's such an attractive destination that they can get players to come there. So like, I would not argue save these draft picks so you can have a homegrown team, but I do think that those draft picks are incredibly valuable. I think the challenging thing is, I mean, I guess it doesn't help you with Victor all that much this year, but draft picks in general that have a shot at the lottery are never going to be more valuable than they are right now. So
Correct.
The tough thing about trading your draft picks is presumably you make yourself no longer a lottery team, but anybody who'd be willing to give you legitimate return would hope that you're going to still be a lottery team. And I mean, I guess they have one that's theirs.
The Pelicans got their other ones because of the Anthony Davis trade, right? Like, so they can't get Victor is the problem,
it's
even
future.
if they bottomed out.
Yeah, it's future draft picks that don't have Victor attached to them. So it's not an attractive situation. They're in no man's land. And I mean, I don't know. Let's just enjoy LeBron.
Can we get LeBron, Chris Paul? Can we do that?
No,
I think that'd be funny.
That wouldn't be funny. You're mean.
He's so available. Chris Paul hates that his name got leaked in some form or fashion in this Nets Suns failed discussion. And now, Alabaster, tell me you are not morbidly curious about Chris Paul with LeBron finally.
Oh, I would love that. No. Make it happen. But no, to your point, Domonique, you're talking about teams that are good that could win the title. And I just want to go. So Steph Curry is out at least a month with a knee injury that's apparently incredibly painful. And so I'm looking at the top of the West. do you trust the Nuggets? Do you trust the Grizzlies? Do you trust the Pelicans? Do you trust the Mavericks? It's not like, yeah, there are a bunch of good teams that could win, but none of them are really like trustworthy juggernauts in a series against LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
Yeah, so this is so funny because just a season ago, I was getting mocked relentlessly.
You were
for saying like, hey, get these two in a series and watch out. And now you're making the same argument and you're using a word like trust. Are they better than any of those teams? Hell no, they're not. They're like, I mean, I guess maybe you could argue they're better than the Mavericks, but and then if it's about LeBron winning championships, they are way behind, in my view, those teams in the East. Like, I don't want to see the Celtics. I don't want to see the 76ers from them. I don't want to see the Bucks. So, like, you have to do something that's going to make them into a legitimate championship contender. And I don't know that there's a move out there that does that right now. And I like that you are now at the get them in there. They could be scary.
Can we find a clip from a year ago?
No.
In the same way that Tom Brady exactly a year ago did the same thing. I feel like you bullied Alabaster. You bullied Domonique off of this take, and now you're trying to bully him back onto it.
Alabaster just trying to fill time with interesting content. I forgive you, Alabaster.
Stirring the pot. I appreciate you for all those salient points, though, Domonique. I agree with all of them.
It's good producing right there. Just advocating for the devil.
That's right. Okay, so this is airing on Wednesday. We're getting the debut of Kyrie Irving as a Mav tonight. Luka's probably still out, but what do you think the Mavericks ceiling is with these two guys?
I mean, Jason Kidd had this quote, Domonique, that I think tells the whole story in like 4 seconds. He said, sometimes our offense is going to have to be our defense. And that is the problem, because no one's going to outscore them because they are incredible. Like, I believe that is a plausible aspiration. The most effective offense in the NBA, which they are already when Luka's on the floor. The problem is simply when he's off, they become, utterly mediocre. And now, hey, Kyrie's not around.
One thing that you know about coaches is coaches love to preach defense. If your head coach has already given up on your defense before you've even had both your players healthy and on the court at the same time, you are in trouble. I think second round, that's their ceiling. I think to me is second round, game 7 is. But I mean, I guess Luka's made it deeper than that by himself, and I was thoroughly surprised when he did. So I guess you could go further, but I don't know. The head coach, whatever you ever heard an NBA head coach say, you know what? We ain't tripping on this defense in the playoffs. Like, that is not something that happens ever. I don't know. Mike D'Antoni never even said that.
No, the notion that, Kyrie, and Kyrie's numbers, by the way, which are exactly the same this year as they were last year at this point, 27, 5, and 5, I believe, is that tiny number on my tiny window. He is fundamentally the same player. The problem, I mean, look, we don't have to relitigate anything about Kyrie's like actual psychological state or his philosophies. Just know that whatever, remember he had to post that thing on Instagram, that apology, that was like the thing. Like, we're good. He posted the apology. He deleted the apology as he was traded to the Mavericks. So there's that. And so it's just sort of like, yes, congratulations. You now get to restart this cycle if you so desire it. And yes, offensively in a game 7, love Kyrie in a game 7. Luka Doncic terrorized the Clippers, right? The bubbles. I think it was the bubble series. Hit a step back to win a playoff game. Incredible. I just don't see them being good enough to make noise.
I hope the owner of the Nets, Joe Tsai, shot confetti cannons in his office and champagne and celebrated like he won a championship when he successfully offloaded Kyrie Irving for anything of value. Like, I honestly feel like he should feel like this season was a success. Because he had this very talented player at one point in the season. He had a talented player that could not play for him because of the things he was saying and doing. And somehow he managed to get value back for him. And immediately he's doing things that suggest that this is going to be a rocky ride, which we all knew because we ain't seen him not do stuff like this in a long time. So, and I keep hearing that he wants to get the max. That's why he left, right? He's trying to get the max. It's, what would help you? It's like, just like shut off your socials and say the right things. And part of me like appreciates that
I know, Domonique. I can hear you hating what you're about to say, because you, more than anybody, value convictions, principles over like the theater of being a good person. But holy man,
Yeah,
it's just sort of like, help me help you.
It's too far, man. Like I that was one of the things, like when Kyrie was being an anti-vaxxer, he was like, all right, what's the price? I'll pay it, but I'm not getting a vaccine. This other stuff, like
I know. Yeah, so this is the theater that Kyrie engaged in again. He just says the word ecstatic. He's ecstatic about joining the Mavs, which is what he per Chris Haynes' sources is what Kyrie has said, the word ecstatic. And there's just another great tweet from, I believe, Gary Washburn from when Kyrie joined the Celtics. And you will not be surprised to learn that the word he used to describe joining the Boston Celtics was ecstatic. And it's just like, yeah, we're probably gonna have the exact same thing again, because it's happened over and over again.
I just want to watch Kyrie handle the ball and make
just be the best
left-handed layups,
dribbler of all time. Yeah,
man. You know what we're saying right now. This is real shut up and dribble vibes. We got to have, like, literally. We are coming to our forces are combining to tell Kyrie to shut up and dribble. I've never been more ashamed and more right in the history of my life.
All right, guys, so we should talk about the other team from that deal, and that's the Brooklyn Nets, who still have all-time great Kevin Durant on their roster and a bevy of interesting role players, one of whom is Cam Thomas, who is now getting buckets. And my question to you all, do Cam Thomas's back-to-back 40-point games change what you think the Nets should do before the trade deadline?
I should be clear about how little I knew about Cam Thomas before he became the youngest person, Domonique, to have back-to-back 40-point games since LeBron James. And I had to be I had to be the guy who's like, okay, well, on the one hand, I'm like the Linsanity guy, so I of course believe in like the fact that just people are so terrible at scouting that they can just miss guys like this. Then I realized that Cam Thomas out of LSU was actually a first-round pick last season in 2021. And so it's like actually not totally surprising that he would be actually good if you gave him a shot. And then I'm like, well, he's also Cam Thomas. And I feel like in between there, right? Take the mean of all of those takes is like sixth man, which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that back-to-back 40-point games is a fluke. It's also not something that you can do consistently. I think that he is much better than any of us knew he was, because, as Pablo pointed out, we ain't know that he was before the last couple of nights. So, yes, he's a good piece. I don't think it should change their approach, because their approach should have always been the same. They don't have a future. They don't. This is it. Their approach should be now. There are no assets. There's no pathway to like planning for something else. You just don't have an option. The option right now is build around, to go all in. I think this is very different than the Lakers situation. All in may not work for them, but there is no other option for them given the way that their draft capital and given the age of Kevin Durant. Like, yeah, y'all got to build around Kevin Durant, which you have a reasonable structure around him right now. But yeah, if there are some more options or more players that you can go get that will help you, you got to do it, because you don't really have another choice.
No, they should be all in on this season. And I say that because, look, and this is presuming a key thing, is that Kevin Durant is not behind the scenes, like threatening to sit out games. And so we come to the part of the conversation that was the entire conversation a year ago. Will Kevin Durant sit out games, or will he actually play out the term of a 4-year contract that he has remaining? And so, Alabaster put down a card here about an offer of, okay.
So the Nets plan to offer the picks acquired in the Kyrie trade, which is a first-round pick from Dallas, as well as a bunch of second-round picks, as well as the Philadelphia 2023 first-rounder that they own to improve their roster before the deadline.
Yeah, and they should. I mean, look, the whole thing, the fact that they went and got those two players, Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith, indicates that they are trying to win right now. They did not prioritize the future draft picks; they prioritized the present. And if you can put together some stuff, we're gonna say these Raptors names, these Raptors names all through this show.
Yeah, that's it.
We're gonna raid the Raptors. Go try and raid the Raptors.
Yeah, that's the best. I mean, you have to have a player like Kevin Durant to win a championship. There's no reason to believe that you're going to find another player like that anytime soon. You're very close, given that you have the hardest piece to find is that centerpiece player. You have one. You have him. So the idea that you can move him and get even more draft picks and like cross your fingers to find someone else who, once you get him, will not be ready immediately, because that's just not how it works. It's going to be, if you manage to get someone as talented as he is, you're looking at 4 or 5 years out before you have a real chance at winning a title again. You got a guy who's in title playing condition right now. You have a bunch of role players. So, like, if you think about it that way, that there are like 3 things that you need. You need a true, like, number one. You need a true number 2. And you need role players. They got the number 1. They got the role players. If you can put together a package to find a number 2, then you're in there. Otherwise, like, the chances are you have to then go back to the drawing board, and it's going to be really hard to grab somebody else in the future.
Alabaster, do not yell at me about Ben Simmons right now.
That's what I have to do.
Yeah, he has to. I'm sorry, Pablo.
Pablo, this is the question. So he obviously has a tough contract, 2 years, $80 million left on it, but that's the contract you need to get a secondary star. Given the fact that he is a borderline NBA player at this point, and they have Nick Claxton, who's their defensive stopper and can't play with Ben Simmons, is there a way, do you see a market for attaching Ben Simmons to those picks to get back a salary that can help Kevin Durant, who's playing maybe as well as he's ever played before injury? Truly unbelievable basketball to be a contender in the East.
So in the NBA, right, just so to explain how this works, in the NBA, it's sort of like how you have to pay someone to come into your house and take your furniture you don't want out of it. So you have to incentivize someone to take on a bad thing by paying them to do it. Ben Simmons, as much as it pains me to say this, is that couch. He has arguably the worst contract in the NBA. It's a max deal. And I don't think he is a borderline NBA player. I think he's an NBA player. He's just not a guy you can rely on to start games because he is not playing nearly enough. And I believe that to be a function of health and all the other Ben Simmons stuff, which I am too exhausted to yell about because I also don't have high ground to that conversation anymore. And so what we're left with is, what the Nets are left with. A giant albatross that you have to wear around. And Alabaster, no. The answer is no. I don't think you can pay anybody to take that contract off of your hands. You would take back something that you absolutely would not want that mitigates the whole benefit of actually getting rid of him.
Yeah, I was going to say he was an asset at one point, but that feels like underselling what he was at his peak. Like, he was a top-tier defensive player and at least not an offensive liability at one point. To get to the point where you can't beg somebody to take him is just devastating. And that was like the big piece that they got back when they sent James Harden packing, which James Harden went packing presumably because Kyrie was there doing wild stuff. It's a whole long line of sadness. Josiah, just celebrate that Kyrie's out the building and just assume that everything else on top of this is gravy.
There is I feel like you have to get in the mindset of like anything that Ben gives you. And I have not, because I am the person who believes that he is a serviceable NBA player with the potential of playing as well as an all-star. I just can't convince anybody else of that. And that's the problem that the Nets also have. They cannot convince another team of that. And so it's just sort of like, hey, anything you get from him is gravy, but you're not gonna move that deal, man.
Yeah.
There's just no way. But you have other players. The Nets and this is the difference between the Nets and the Lakers, Alabaster. Like the Nets they have depth, right? Like Nick Claxton is really good. Seth Curry, a really good shooter. Joe Harris is a useful player. Go down the list, and it's just a bunch of role guys. And go get yourself a Raptor.
I would love to see OG Anunoby on that team, for the record. They're asking for 3 first-round picks. That's what Brooklyn can trade.
Yep.
Putting Claxton, DFS, Anunoby around Durant is switchable,
Defensively,
length.
yeah,
Yeah, incredible.
It's gonna be annoying as hell for Giannis. Defensively, I would think is the point in putting all of this together. Is it feels like a defensive lineup that would give Giannis some trouble if there is such a thing, and the offensive side of the ball is give it to KD. He'll make it work.
What's the biggest scandal Giannis has had? I feel like Giannis, more than anybody else, could just be out here passive aggressively emojiing things, and he's just not. What was it? The time he made like a joke with his wife,
that's what I was
like
thinking.
on his
Yeah,
birthday, like that was
he had
it.
the easy button. And he was
Yeah, real.
Let's get
Easier
out
than
of
it
here
has
before
to be.
Pablo makes a joke.
Easier than it has to be in the Eastern Conference. So we just spent a solid 25 minutes talking about Tim Couch. Go look him up on the internet if you want to find out why we did that. But Spencer is here on the record now, and we have other topics to talk about that you probably did expect to talk about today.
It's unfair what you did to Tim Couch, because if I'm hearing this show, I'm assuming that he did something stupid, which I guess maybe possibly.
Well,
true. Yeah. Okay.
It's not a crime to be swole.
Oh man! All right, Alabaster.
All right, guys. Do you think it's a big deal that Sean Payton is no longer allowing Russell Wilson's quarterback coach in the facility?
So Sean Payton had this presser in front of the assembled media in Denver, in which he established that he is the new sheriff in town. And you may wonder, didn't I guess in this metaphor, the outlaw that this sheriff is hunting, didn't he invite that sheriff in? Wasn't he so excited about this sheriff? And the answer is yes. Russell Wilson saw Sean Payton as his savior, his guy. And yet, because of the personal staff that Russell Wilson has apparently had, thanks to Nat Hackett, Sean Payton has to lay down the law. And he said this: "That's foreign to me, not going to take place, unfamiliar with it. Our staff will be here, our players will be here, and that will be it." And I hope Russell Wilson isn't hurt by this, but I have to imagine that some of this is both the performance of being the law, and the other part of it is actually like everybody hating the arrangement from last year in a very real way.
I read the quotes before. I saw him say it, and reading it makes it feel worse slightly to me, because it seemed like he did a good job. What bothered me about it initially was it felt like he came out of his way to take a shot at Russell Wilson. It doesn't feel like that at all when you watch it. It feels like he took all the strength in his body to not reveal how disgusted he was by the idea. Sean Payton is an old school Bill Parcells hard ass disciple coach, and the idea that someone outside of your coaching staff is in the building influencing your players is some new school that he is not here for. And you could see him just roiling inside of him was a rage that he managed to tamp down. And I thought the way he handled it was honestly like pretty tactful, because what he wanted to say was a lot more profane. So yeah, I mean, I think overall he's the coach of the entire team, and they paid him like he is the centerpiece there. And the entire team, I think, would respond well to this new sheriff in town behavior, because they did not feel sufficiently sheriffed by the previous administration, and they didn't have any success. So I think that there was probably a good bit of resentment for Russell Wilson amongst the players, which is gonna lead on to other things like, why are we doing special things for this guy who can't even play? So yeah, this is probably a good step in the right direction.
Oh, I like this because now we get to go ahead and invoke his alias, Dangerous. Dangerous. Mr. Unlimited, the outlaw Russell Wilson. The last person on earth I would cast as being a rebel or an upstart in any way. I do think this, as much as I loathe stories of the head coach coming in and laying down the law, he's going to do it. Like, you can see there's certain reporters who, when this happens, right, like their bootlicking tendencies just go to 150. They're like, ooh, he came in here and he told them a declarative sentence. He said they were going to have jobs and get paychecks. I love it. Like, that's, if you get excited over that stuff, I'm a little suspicious of you and your entire way of being. However, I will say this. It makes sense if you're Sean Payton and you go, so you have a QB coach. Uh-huh. How's that working for you?
Yeah.
Right.
What's the effect
Right.
on your overall game? We might want to re-examine that. Even if it wasn't a blanket law, I might want to look at that relationship and say, might be a fine QB coach. Probably not the match for you based on the evidence so far.
Yeah, the evidence being that the Broncos had the worst offense in the NFL by points per game. And I do think it's fair. We all sort of feel the queasiness of like celebrating a quote that is, catnip to the reporters who want to give a pound to an iron fist, right? Like, yeah, love this. But you know, Spencer, Domonique mentioned Bill Parcells before. I believe he name-checked Parcells like 4 times in this presser, which does not feel accidental. This is clearly his strategy in terms of like both introducing himself to the public and perhaps internally.
Is that just, by the way, are you just waving the I'm going to be a flag if you're like Parcells?
Exactly.
Parcells. Prepare. Right? Like, and I'm saying this, I would say this to Bill Parcells and he would agree with me, be like, yeah, that's coming.
Yeah. The more we talk about it, the more upset I get with the position that I'm on. Like I would like to not be on the side of.
No, you're right.
Of like hierarchy and military.
It says a lot about this story.
It does. It says a lot about how bad they were, and to be completely transparent is there's nothing that comes above winning for most of these coaches, and I do think if there was some reason that these extra coaches in the building gave Sean Payton some belief that they would be more successful, he'd bring those in immediately. But I think the point Pablo made is the right one. Yeah, this ain't working. You got to go. And there's a short leash on the like new agey stuff that if it's not immediately successful, it's gone. We're going back to no water breaks immediately. Junction boys. That's how we win, by trying to kill ourselves.
I mean, where was Russell Wilson thriving? In Seattle, where it was, what do we do on first down? Run. What do we do on second down? Run right to the same spot.
You cut me deep. You cut me deep.
You have Domonique carrying the water that Sean Payton will not provide to his players on a hot summer day during OTAs.
OTAs, so much fun.
By the way, Sean Payton, but it's on the record, right? Like Sean Payton, not opposed to an off the books program, right?
That's
like
true.
He's willing to do things that are not necessarily on record.
Why do you say that?
Gosh.
No reason.
He had to take a break from the NFL because he was bountying. So
what's a step? What's
he
a step
was
too far?
NFL
that
to the NFL.
That.
Yep. Oh my goodness.
Glad he's back though.
Yeah. To be fair to Sean Payton,
good coach.
Saints were the only team doing that.
Oh, this Domonique, is news to you, Pablo? Have you ever accepted? Wait a minute, Domonique Foxworth. We're gonna go Frost Nixon real quick here, Spencer. Right. Domonique Foxworth, have you ever accepted a bounty to intentionally injure another NFL player?
I was a 175-pound cornerback.
So I'm hearing yes.
That was not my game. No. My game was not hurting people. That was just not what I was out there to do.
So I'm hearing quiet assassin. I'm hearing the undersized torpedo.
There you go. I tried. I mean, even if there was no money to be made, I was trying. It just wasn't working.
Yeah, but that's okay. Sean Payton's going to get him in line, which is what he needs to do. He's going to get him playing the right way.
Change the culture. First thing we got to do, change the culture.
Change the culture.
Nice. Thank
That's
you.
correct.
What is the new culture going to be?
I kind of think they need to change the culture. They sucked last year.
Okay. I'm glad someone said it.
Thank you. And that was really impressive the way you really dug into the intricacies of what was wrong with that team and you solved them. Nice. You want to coach?
Yeah, hadn't thought about it before like that.
Yeah, I mean, I care a lot, so I think I could try and fix that part.
Also, by the way, also one more thing, by the way, this is how I end up on the authoritarian side of things. Who's on the other side? Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
You're like, I gotta go over here.
I think the most shocking thing is not that we're on this side, is that Russell's not. Like, he just strikes me as someone who is like very much a willing middle manager, but right now somehow he is a rebel in this case.
Russell Wilson is such a willing middle manager that he was employing privately a middle manager outside of the middle management.
He was. He wanted more
this where we-
management. He had coaches, and he's like, "No, you know what I need?
Yes.
I need more oppression from above."
You know what's cooler
Hey.
than a million coaches? A billion coaches.
Mhm. Yeah, this is by the way where Sean Payton quietly buys him off with like a stapler and a PowerPoint presentation. He's like, "I have a PowerPoint presentation for you," and Russell's
Ooh.
like,
Is there a quarterback that would love a PowerPoint more than Russell? I don't think so. I think
No.
Russell, yeah.
Absolutely
Loves it.
not. Absolutely not.
All right, Allie, what you got?
I mean,
That's a
Alabaster.
good question.
Yeah, I mean, you love PowerPoints, obviously. You're flowcharting us to this next topic as hard as you've ever had before.
An unsuccessful jump pass. Let's move on. Based on his comments on his podcast
gosh.
and on Colin Cowherd, do you think Tom Brady will definitely stay retired?
No. And I went into this before I heard it. I had to read it first, like Domonique. I had read this thing before I heard it. And this is the quote. I've loved my time. So he was asked, is there like a 1% chance he would ever come back? And he says to Colin Cowherd, quote, "I've loved my time in football. It's absolutely an incredible love in my life. Hard to make decisions like that, but it's certainly the right time." End quote. And you may notice in that quote a lack of an answer of any kind. And this is exactly what ChatGPT would have generated for what would Tom Brady say if he was asked, is he ever going to actually come back and play football?
Oh no! I mean, so the one thing, just
For the
for the
podcast
podcast
audience.
audience, I don't respect you, so I won't explain what you missed. Go to YouTube, jerks. But I will say one thing about Tom Brady: don't be a coward. Move your hand.
"Yeah, no, be 100% champion."
Yeah. I mean, don't be a
Absolutely.
coward. Move your hand. And
I thought you were clutch.
would he come back? Like, I think Tom Brady is certainly going to be working out and lurking around for the end of the season when a team like the Jets were last year. If that pops up again, there's a team that is obviously very good, but do not have the player they need to take them over the top. I could see him jumping in, or there's an injury on some other team. I could see him jumping in, which is so beneath Tom Brady, but it doesn't matter to him because he doesn't care. It's like you have a romantic comedy and the guy at the end is willing to degrade himself to any level to show the person on the other side that he truly loves them and doesn't care what anybody thinks about him, doesn't care what anyone says about him. Only thing he wants is you, baby, and that you is football. And imagining that Tom Brady is not going to haul through the airport in his underwear to get on that plane or to get in front of that plane to stop football from flying back home to her hometown boyfriend is outrageous. Tom Brady will lay on the runway in his expensive underwear to stop football from flying back home.
Well, I want Spencer. I am now concerned that Tom Brady is going to end up sending like problematic DMs to football now.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, dude, take a hint, man. Like this is getting weird.
Just
Don't text,
just pictures
don't text
of him,
football.
just pictures of him doing 3-step drops in the sand. Like, check this out, football. This could be you.
Oh, you want me to move my hand, huh? Check this.
You up at 3 a.m. all to football's main account. That is correct. How many days are we into? Yeah, with the point,
Slow
and the hand up. Yeah. How many days into his retirement are we? Are we still single digit?
Yeah, I
We're
think so.
single
They were
digit.
less than a week. Less than a week.
It
Yeah,
was
less
on.
than a
It was on
week.
the first day of Black History Month. Just something I
Yeah,
can't
that's-
seem to ever forget.
Couldn't
Twice,
give you-
back to back Black History Month. He wanted to kick them both
couldn't
off.
give you all 3 hours.
Yeah, I can't,
Couldn't
man.
give you all 3 hours.
Back to back, year after year. He's like, you know what? What's today?
1 week later, underwear. That's what I'm saying. He hasn't been retired a week, and he's posting underwear selfies. He's going back.
That's rough. As people,
He's not staying retired.
didn't people like get upset at Aaron Rodgers for like trying to take over the draft at one point by like what did he? Oh, it was like the trade conversation one year around the draft, and he was like, "Hey, Aaron Rodgers trying to make the draft about him." Tom Brady took a picture in his drawers and put it on the internet on Super Bowl week.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why Aaron Rodgers to counter
Yes.
by telling Pat McAfee that he's going to be, I believe, sitting in total darkness in a room for 4 days straight to contemplate his future with the Green Bay Packers.
I'm so surprised at how much I love Aaron Rodgers now in my life. Like, we can go back to when Aaron Rodgers was anti-vaccine and I was infuriated with him. But he's done nothing but bring joy to me ever since then. And I defend him on every platform now. I take his side against the Packers, and I will fight both of you if you want to make jokes about Aaron Rodgers and his new, like, religious, I guess. I don't know. Spiritual off seasons.
Yeah.
Words are spells.
Yeah, no judgment there. I'm just saying he's reinventing being a Wisconsinite when he's like, I'm going to spend 4 days in a dark room. I'm like, so's everyone else in Green Bay. They spent 3 months in a dark room. It's called winter.
But they don't have a choice, Aaron. You have a choice. Why are you doing
it? Aaron just rebranding and making more expensive the fact of being a Wisconsinite. In the summer, he's going to be like, I'm just going to go to a lake and sit in a boat and think. You're like, yeah, that's what everyone else in Wisconsin does in the summer.
Man. I got to admit, as soon as I read this,
read what? Did we? I don't even think we've fully explained what he's doing.
Oh, so Aaron Rodgers, when you're plunged into total darkness, apparently you begin to hallucinate in ways that resemble the experience of DMT, aka the God particle, aka a thing that you should also fall into a rabbit hole for on the internet. But the point is that Aaron Rodgers, this is my favorite detail, I think, Aaron Rodgers will be in this tiny room, and there will be 2 slots on the door for like food. The question is, of course, like, well, how do you get your food? Well, of course, you get them in you put them in a slot. And Aaron Rodgers is eating sadly, or perhaps revelatorily, his ham sandwich or whatever it is in pitch black darkness.
I didn't know this was a thing until like last season of Atlanta. I saw that they were doing this like sensory deprivation chamber stuff, which I'm hesitant to be judgmental of all this stuff because he's finding meaning and purpose and happiness. And he's not hurting anybody. Oh,
and you are joining
of darkness.
Yeah, welcome to your DMT experience.
Yeah, and so I mean, go ahead, man. Like religious people have believed crazier stories than what Aaron Rodgers is cooking up. So I mean, if this is making him happier, by all means, Aaron, lock yourself in a closet. I don't know. Do mushrooms. Read the stars, do all the stuff. I'm with you, Aaron. Do your thing.
I have a question for Pablo. What's the longest you've ever played a single video game, and which video game was it?
Oh, it's definitely Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. But the thing with the problem that I'm describing is that I never actually play the video game. I just wander around.
And cause havoc.
I'm just a terrorist.
Yeah.
I've done that for, I don't know how long, days at a time.
That's fine. That's fine. Now, do you feel bad about that experience? Because I'm going to tell you, the man blessed with the most athletic skills at the position of quarterback, and I'm holding this up, podcast listeners, he, with given free time, is doing this, posing in his underwear on the internet. You played GTA 4. I just want to compliment you on your life choices. I think you're spending your leisure time a little bit better. Also, you could do that until you hallucinated, and that would be a spiritual experience. I'm not discounting that either.
Happen. That
Both
did come close
are the
to
same. Yes.
Oh gosh. So he's coming back. Okay. Get excited.
He's coming back.
Guys.
He's coming back.
He's coming back. They're both coming back.
Yeah.
We're not coming back.
I did try to go into a sensory deprivation. It was
you
at
did?
the new museum in Manhattan. I got online, and when I got there, they explained that they had to shut it down because on the first day of the tank, someone tried to like grab another person's privates, and I was like, well, this is why we can't have nice things.
So
this is why
you're not like alone in there. You're not alone in there. They put a bunch of people in one tank.